Good morning. Welcome to TNT. Thank you for joining us. Well, gave me a bit of a smile yesterday when I read an article in an English publication here in Thailand about a British man who'd had his flight cancelled. Well, that writer must have missed a story that we did about 4,000 plus travellers in and out of Australia who have been affected by Jetstar's problems with its 787 fleet. They're the wide-body fleet that they use for their long-haul flights around Asia. Some 4,000 plus passengers have been affected, and now that is set to also affect people in Phuket and Japan as well, as cancellations, delays and rebookings continue, causing complete mayhem for people trying to get back to Australia or trying to get from Australia to parts of Asia. So it's a big problem for the Australian budget airline, wholly owned by Qantas. We've got more information about that and more on today's TNT. And thank you for joining us on our Thursday program. Only 2 days to go before you, me and a cuppa get together on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Thai time. That'll be our live program. Still haven't quite figured out what I want to do with the program. What I might do tomorrow is put up a quick message in our community section asking for some pre-questions, because that does at least give me an opportunity to try and cobble together some intelligent answers. But let's get started with today's program, of course, sponsored by 5 Star Marine. And we start with a follow-up to that horrendous story from Krabi yesterday. Motorist in student murder case in solitary after attacking another prisoner. And the motorist arrested after 3 students were shot dead following a road accident in Krabi on Tuesday morning, that was around about 1:30 a.m, has been moved to solitary confinement after attacking another prisoner. Police say that the 42-year-old punched another prisoner in his cell at the Khao Phanom police station on Tuesday evening, banging his head on the floor, causing injuries. And then from the other very, very sad side of the story, management teachers and students at the Phnom Benja school attended bathing rites for the 3 slain students at 3 local temples in Khao Phanom district on Tuesday. Very, very sad sight to see. And of course, a lot of counselling will be required for the students at those schools. These were 18-year-olds, so almost adults, and they'll be taking this very, very hard. So our thoughts go out to the community in Krabi, at the school, and the friends and family of those students. To the next story from the Bangkok Post, and judges won't be rushed. The court vows probe over a leak in the PM case. There is our current Defence Minister, former PM, well, maybe still the PM, we're not quite sure yet. The Constitutional Court says no ruling will be given on Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha's tenure at a special meeting today, as the court has promised an investigation into the leaking of a key document presented to it by a former lead charter writer. The court has no intention of prolonging or fast-tracking the tenure case in any way, says the Secretary-General of the Office of the Constitutional Court. And the court maintains utmost neutrality and independence and upholds justice, he said. Let's hope that's the case. And down the bottom there, Constitutional Court President has expressed concern about the leaking of a document submitted to the court by Michai Ruchupan, the former chairman of the 2017 Charter Drafting Committee. In the document, he contends that General Prayut, his premiership officially began in April 2017 when the Constitution was promulgated. That means General Prayut's 8-year tenure as Prime Minister would end in April 2025. As a former chief charter writer, the statement is believed to carry substantial weight in the case. And that last line being the key. I'm sure the judges are feeling the weight of their decision as they ponder this case, a very important case. General Prayut and the Palang Pracharat ruling party, they'll all have to face an election which would have to be called at the very latest of March next year. So an election is looming, and exactly what happens between now and then, well, it's up to the Constitutional Court. But either way, very likely there's going to be an election sooner or later. It will have to be called by March next year, which means the election at the latest would be May next year. just a quick break. I'd like to thank our sponsors, 5 Star Marine. Now, if you're coming to Phuket and you'd like to go out to see some of the islands, you can go in a beautiful boat like this on a private charter to an island like this. Even on wet days, they'll probably find a break in the weather to give you a memorable trip. So thank you to 5 Star Marine. Thursday morning's program on TNT. Thank you very much for joining us as we whip around the region. In fact, a very big story out of Vietnam yesterday. Vietnam karaoke bar fire kills at least 32 people. Now we believe that's been updated, but we'll get to that. The details, this is from the BBC.com. At least 32 people have died and others have been injured in a huge fire at a karaoke complex in southern Vietnam near Ho Chi Minh City. To escape, 4 people jumped from the second and third floors, according to local media. They were injured but survived. The local newspaper, the official mouthpiece of the Public Security Ministry, said 32 people were now confirmed to have lost their lives, including 17 men and 15 women. Apparently there were around 60 people in the bar when the fire broke out. Another detail from that story, since 2014, there's been at least 6 such incidents, resulting in the deaths of 58 people. And of course, very fresh in our memories is the August 5th fire at the Mountain Bee Bar, just south of Pattaya in Sata Hip. And that investigation is still going, but these stories crop up far, far too often. Going to some more coverage of that story, this one from CNA in Singapore, saying that 23 dead, 11 injured in Vietnam karaoke bar fire. That story being published before further information came out as the death toll rose over yesterday and last night. This story saying that the blaze engulfed the second floor of the building on Tuesday night, trapping customers and staff as dense smoke filled the staircase and blocked the emergency exits. This is the key again, these emergency exits. Were they blocked by fire? Were they blocked by smoke? Or were they blocked by the owners of these establishments? Down the bottom, many crowded into a balcony to escape the flames, which grew quickly as they caught the wooden interior, while others were forced to jump from the building. The initial cause of the fire was said to be an electrical short circuit, according to state media. Well, of course, that also rings some familiar bells. Short circuits often cited as the reason some of these fires start in these bars. VN Express, this is the Vietnamese coverage. Karaoke parlour death toll rises further to 33. This is the latest information that we have available at the moment. They also did some coverage, which we can see here, some video coverage of the fire engulfing this particular establishment just out of Ho Chi Minh City, formerly Saigon. Of course, Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi, the 2 big major cities in Vietnam. But coverage there, covered in VN Express. They have an English and a Vietnamese publication each day. The parlour staff were not able to contain the fire as it caught the soundproof foam mattresses and wooden interiors. That soundproofing again coming up in numerous stories when these fires happen as highly flammable and becomes very dangerous, and the fumes as it burns are toxic and creates a black acrid smoke. Many people were forced to rush to the balcony. 4 people were injured after jumping down a height of 7 to 8 metres from the second floor. That update there from VN Express in Vietnam. You're on the TNT program. Thanks for joining us this morning. We go to the story about Jetstar's woes extending to Phuket and Japan flights. This story from Phuket-go.com. The second paragraph here saying the carrier has been unable to offer some customers new flights home more than a week after their original travel dates. Other customers have had flights cancelled and rescheduled up to 3 times. And we note that some 4,000 plus passengers have been affected flying out of Australia to their holidays or travel destinations in Asia, or trying to get back from places like Japan, Bangkok, Phuket and Bali back to Australia. According to Flight Radar, the aircraft recently out of operation include 5 Boeing 787 Dreamliners, which haven't flown since June. That's half of its long-haul fleet out of service. That's their fleet in Asia. Going further in that story, it says that the Australian, that's the Murdoch-owned national daily in Australia, reports that Jetstar is hoping to have 7 planes back in operation by today, while 4 others remain grounded. Next week, 3 more should have returned to service, they say. The parent company Qantas Group is trying to alleviate the issues by putting passengers on specially added flights to Melbourne, as well as regular Qantas services out of the region. And apparently Jetstar are offering credits, Australian $150 per night towards accommodation and $30 per person for food. So that story goes on further to talk about problems with a proposed strike next Monday by the Transport Workers Union and the Dnata group, which contracts to Qantas, Jetstar and other airlines, including Emirates, the ground staffing there. And that's going to cause a lot of problems early next week for people moving out of Australia at the airport serviced by the Dnata contractors. So that's looming more problems for not only Qantas and Jetstar, but other airlines that use that Dnata contract group. So now there is more transport news as well. AirAsia X opposes travel levy. This story from the Bangkok Post. Tourism fee would hamper recovery, says Tony Fernandez. And he says the fee will hit tourism demand. Just also notice there, as a side note, the advertisement that sits on the photo, you can't actually get rid of that. So this is just another one of these bits of advertising. They're finding ways to, you can't just scroll past them. They appear or you can't get rid of them. So this is all the ways that these online publishers are getting advertisements in front of you, whether you like it or not. So Tony goes on to say, with a full recovery for aviation in sight, stumbling blocks such as the tourism fee the Thai government plans to collect should be set aside, as an influx of travellers can create more economic impact than a small levy. And further on that article, we get a bit of an insight as to what AirAsia X, which is the long-haul section of AirAsia, and Thai AirAsia are proposing. Tony Fernandez said that AirAsia X can return to profitability even though China's borders remain closed, as its airlines are planning new routes to Europe next year, namely London and Istanbul for the AirAsia, that's the one flying out of KL, and key cities in Eastern Europe such as Prague, Vienna and Budapest for Thai AirAsia X, and that would be flying out of Bangkok. So interesting to see a little bit of stuff coming up for AirAsia there. Other things to note, Thai AirAsia X flies 3 jets to Seoul and Tokyo and plans to add inaugural services to Sydney and Melbourne in December. And AirAsia X in KL has routes to Seoul, Busan, New Delhi, Tokyo, Osaka and Sapporo. As Thailand's tourism recovery is just gaining momentum, he says he hopes the government will not collect the 300 baht tourism tax from foreign arrivals at the moment. So I think it's less about the actual 300 baht, the, $10 that they're applying as a tourism tax and arrival tax. There's been arrival and departure taxes to Thailand before. I just think it's the marketing, the PR, the optics of applying a new tax at the moment, at a time when the government is doing its very best to try and attract tourists, new and old, to come back to Thailand at the moment. To a sad story, and Thailand rescued Irrawaddy dolphin calf dies despite weeks of care. This story being reported in the IndianExpress.com. The baby dolphin was nicknamed Paradon, roughly translated as brotherly burden, when he was found by fishermen on July the 22nd in the Gulf of Thailand. Apparently, he started to get sick again on August the 31st, having difficulty breathing and suffering from diarrhea. He deteriorated deteriorated so quickly and he died that night, which is very sad. While we can't save Paradon's life, they say, we've learnt a lot from it. Not many people have cared for Irrawaddy dolphins, let alone a calf. Everything we've done in a month for caring for him are all lessons learned. And just a note there that Irrawaddy dolphins, considered a vulnerable species by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, are found in the shallow coastal waters of South and Southeast Asia and in 3 rivers in Myanmar, Cambodia and Indonesia. Bit of an odd story, this one covered by the Pattaya News. Good morning to all my friends there. A drunk Japanese man runs amok, climbs roof and demands his embassy after allegedly refusing to pay over 5,000 baht drink bill in Pattaya. It all happened in Soi Pattaya 10 after fleeing a restaurant, reportedly refusing to pay for his drinks. He gave no reason to staff, rescue workers or law enforcement for why he refused to pay the amount. It was 5,840 baht, according to the owner. He then tried to flee first by claiming that he could not breathe and needed an ambulance, but failed before dashing and climbing onto a roof. So tourist police took the man to a safe location for him to calm down and allow detoxing, sober up basically, and they'll be inquiring on payment of the outstanding bill, and there might even be a commission involved in that particular inquiry. The story from The Tiger. A Thai man sits on roof for 2 days because his family won't let him smoke marijuana. The details here: a disgruntled man in northeastern Thailand climbed onto the roof when his family cut off his access to marijuana and stayed up there for 2 days. Yesterday evening he got hungry and climbed down before he was taken to hospital. The man's wife said her 42-year-old husband is a weed addict, so she took him from Bangkok to stay with his father to starve him of marijuana. I would like to warn people that marijuana and yaba, which is methamphetamine pills, are bad. Don't try them. It's easy to get addicted. Drug addicts have hallucinations when they kill their parents, hurt their children and partner, or burn their houses down. Anyway, on he goes, and the Tiger decided to dispense their own advice, saying they'd like to point out that many violent crimes in Thailand, such as knife crime, are often committed under the influence of yaba, which is a popular and cheap drug made of methamphetamine mixed with caffeine, pressed into a pill, and they say marijuana, on the other hand, is not known for making people violent. So the writer dispensing her own advice on that particular story. And with that, we thank you very much for joining us on Thursday's program. Hope you have a magnificent Thursday, and we'll be here at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning, Thai time. And if you get the chance, we hope you can join us with that particular program. But from me, from Studio B, we'll see you next time.